Well, thank you everyone for coming. We've been doing this for a few years now. It's nice to get out again with this alternative. Before we get going, I'm going to give Mayor Florsheim a chance to get up and just kind of say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Steve, and I'm going to turn it over in a moment to Steve Haw to lead us in our presentation. But my name is Ben Florsheim. I have the great privilege to serve as mayor in this great community, and I want to say thank you to my alma mater for hosting us here in this beautiful space. I want to thank you all for being here. As some of you joined us for our initial workshops a couple of months ago at City Hall. Some of you are seeing some of this for the first time, and we will be getting some new information as well. And I want to thank my colleagues here from the city. I won't try to do all of the shout outs because we've got a lot of amazing people here, but thank you for your support to my team, our elected officials, our city staff, who have been great allies as we have had this dialogue, and it has been a dialogue, I'm pleased to say, with the Connecticut DOT over the past several months and past several years. And this night has been a long time in the making. The last time we had a formal public hearing of this nature was in 2018. Before I was mayor, I was an audience member there, as many of you were. And what I want to say about this plan is that it was conceived in a very different way, and I think has been realized in a very different way. Conceived in a different way in the sense that we have been able to have these types of workshops, this type of dialogue, to continue to take feedback from you all before the plan is finalized, and to not be something that was conceived really as a way to operate traffic through Middletown rather than how to make Route 9 work better for Middletown. And we have had the opportunity to give considerable feedback input. I say that I mean the city of Middletown, our Department of Public Works, has had a number of conversations with engineers at DOT about accommodations, things that aren't necessarily apparent to the state about how our local roads operate. And a lot of those feedback items have been incorporated into the plan that you will hear about. And I say it's been realized in a different way because previous plans have tried to bring in more infrastructure, construct more highway, more ramps, more elevated structures to try to make Route 9 through Middletown, which existed before it was a highway as a local road, look more like Route 9 everywhere else in the state. And what I think that this plan has done is go back to the drawing board, try to make Route 9 operate better as a road through the center of Middletown to try to slow traffic down in a way that is organic and safe rather than create a condition which, as we all know, it has incredible safety implications for our residents and for the community. So this has not been an easy process. It has not been always a straightforward process. It is not a complete process. This is a continuation tonight. And I want to just say on behalf of myself and a team that includes the mayors and first selectmen from our surrounding communities, as well as the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce, that we appreciate the engagement the DOT has had with us on this. We appreciate your presence here tonight as our ultimate, as our bosses, as the real stakeholders whose feedback we are going to continue to rely on throughout this process. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that you are here. And I'm excited to hear what we're about to hear. So thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. A little taller than I am. All right, so we are here to talk about the removal of the traffic signals on Route 9. This is a public informational meeting, right? The idea here is to educate the public, but there's something else as well. It's a SEPA scoping meeting, which is the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act. The purpose of this SEPA scoping meeting is to identify potential environmental impacts, evaluate and minimize such impacts, involve the public, and then these reviews are required for any state action, any major state action in the state. Some of the impacts we look at, physical impacts, natural and socioeconomic, such as stormwater, wetlands, recreational resources, pretty much the gamut of issues here. So again, it's the process of gathering information. To use to establish what the breadth of our environmental investigation should be. Is it an environmental impact statement, environmental assessment, or categorical exclusion. So we post this in the environmental monitor for comments. There's a minimum 30-day comment period. The scoping meeting tonight is where we receive some more comments and some more feedback, and then we determine what type of evaluation is needed after that. In a little flow chart, 30 days of scoping. We have other state agencies that get involved in this as well and take reviews, as well as the public. And then from there, we decide the appropriate level of environmental review. So we have a lot going on in Middletown. We've had a lot going on for quite some time. What you're looking at up here is all the projects we've had since 2019. So starting with 82318, the red project on Main Street, the sidewalk bump outs on Main Street. We then moved on to 82320, St. John's Square, where we fixed some geometric issues and fixed some on-street parking up in the north end. 82316 is under construction right now. That is the Route 17 on-ramp to Route 9 North. And then what's also just beginning is 82322, which is the closure of the Miller Street access to Route 9. And what's left is 82318 alternative 11. You see it's a little bit larger than maybe what you've seen before. Based on our outreach, we've kind of added some limits. We have a roundabout further south at Silver Street and a roundabout up north in Cromwell that I'll get into. And below is a quick little schedule to kind of see what we've been doing over the years and kind of project it out. So we're in the middle of that construction of the reconfigured Route 17 on-ramp, and hopefully, based on support, this project would kind of follow on the heels of that. So who is the team? So my name is Steve Hall. I'm the project manager for this project. I've been on Middletown for 8 years. I was the primary designer for all the projects I just listed. So I've been working on this for a long time. I've lived in the area. I used to live in Middletown. And then everyone else you see up here is also part of the team, local people, people that have been on the job for a while. We've got highway designers and traffic engineers working together. So you see any of these people later on, please feel free to grab them and ask them a question. So what's the purpose of this project, right? The purpose of this project is to improve safety and reduce congestion on Route 9. The project is needed because the 2 traffic signals on Route 9 contribute to a crash rate significantly higher than adjacent segments of freeway. There's a couple things we have to keep in mind though, a couple constraints. The proposed design cannot cause regular backups onto Route 9 or cause adverse effects to Main Street. So the goal is to improve the safety by removing those signals. However, that can't be at the detriment of Main Street or downtown. So taking a look at some of this crash data, right? We're looking at, you see a green and a purple bar. That's the area we're looking at. So a very short stretch of Route 9. Mile marker 23.1 to 25.6. And these are the crashes we have. 500 crashes and 161 injuries over 3 years. It's a crash every other day and an injury once per week. There's a significant number of wrong way entrances. If you've lived in the area, as I'm sure most of you do, you've seen a lot of these crashes. And here's a typical screenshot. So I'm going to get into this later and add some background, but this is an output of our traffic simulation that shows the expected congestion in 2045 PM peak hour if we do nothing, right? So we look at the future condition and we see the issues that we see today, right? We see the backup on the Aragoni Bridge. We see the backup on Washington Street, backup on Washington down to the Route 9, and of course, south and north of the city backups as well. I'm going to play a short video here.
The city of Middletown, Connecticut is a beautiful and diverse city. With the return to the Riverbend development, iconic Main Street, and vibrant North End, the city is experiencing rapid growth. Solutions must be found to improve safety, reduce congestion, and enhance the connectivity to the Connecticut River along the Route 9 corridor and Main Street, Middletown. Enhancements recently constructed or under construction in the area are already improving safety, traffic flow, and accessibility for all users. Today, the presence of 2 traffic signals along a short stretch of Route 9 leads to a high number of wrong-way entrances, crashes, and injuries. On average, this short stretch experiences a crash every other day with an injury once a week. Congestion along Route 9 and over the Aragoni Bridge also encourages detours through the North End, a dense residential neighborhood full of children and pedestrians. To address these issues, a series of projects has been initiated to make the roadway a safe and more efficient experience for all users. Let's take a closer look at the future improvements. South of the Route 17 interchange and just north of Walnut Street, a new right-hand off-ramp will be constructed to get vehicles from Route 9 northbound to destinations downtown and across the river. This off-ramp will intersect with River Road in a three-leg roundabout, which will naturally reduce speeds, improve safety, decrease the possibility of wrong-way entrances, and create a gateway feature to the riverfront. Vehicles on River Road will connect to Union Street by means of a reconfigured intersection at Harbor Drive, prioritizing the vehicles exiting Route 9. A right turn lane will be added to Union Street to help encourage vehicles to use DeKoven Drive for connection to the Aragoni Bridge and Route 66. Further north, the new pedestrian bridge over Route 9 will be a community space at the heart of the city's redevelopment plans that will connect downtown to the riverfront. To improve safety and eliminate wrong-way entrances at the intersection of Route 9, DeKoven Drive, and Washington Street, the signal will be removed and the operations will be simplified. Access to Route 9 southbound will remain, while the northbound and southbound exits to Washington Street are being removed. Rapallo Avenue will be converted to one-way towards Main Street to prioritize the DeKoven Drive to Rapallo Avenue route to the Aragoni Bridge, while maintaining all on-street parking and sidewalks. This will improve operations of Rapallo, while also improving the pedestrian crossing safety at Main Street. To improve safety and reduce wrong-way entrances at the Hartford Avenue and Route 9 intersection, the signal will be removed, and the southbound lanes will be elevated. This will greatly improve driver safety and decrease congestion along the Route 9 corridor, in the North End and across the Aragoni Bridge. Drivers entering northbound Route 9 from St. John's Square will be afforded plenty of time to accelerate to highway speeds, with a new lane extending all the way to Route 99 in Cromwell. Throughout the network, these design enhancements work together to improve safety for all users, reduce congestion, and create a more efficient downtown. This project, and others like the new pedestrian bridge, will allow a growing Middletown to reconnect with the riverfront and destinations beyond.
All right, so that's the long and short of it, right? But there's a lot more to it. So taking a look at River Road at Route 9, the northbound off-ramp from Route 9. What we're looking at today is we'll call this existing, right? This is the construction project under construction right now is this Route 17 on-ramp to Route 9 North. So for all intents and purposes, this is our future existing condition. What the proposed design will do is add a new alignment off-ramp from Route 9 northbound that will intersect in a three-leg roundabout onto River Road. This roundabout is sized properly to handle any size highway vehicle. It does a tremendous job of naturally reducing speeds and improving safety. I encourage you to look at some of the roundabout information we have elsewhere in the room. From here, we will prioritize the movement off of River Road. There'll be no more stop sign at Harbor Drive, excuse me. There'll be a free flow movement up to Union Street. At Union Street and DeKoven Drive is where they can take a right to go down DeKoven to Rapallo. Over the bridge, they can take a right to go DeKoven and Washington to go west, or they could go up to Main Street and use that route as well. This is in a floodplain. The majority of the roundabout is in a floodplain. I'll get into that a little bit later, but there are some mitigation we have to do because of that. And here's just a shot of that rendering. So you see we have one rail crossing at the approach coming in from River Road. We've talked to the railroad about this. We've added a second pedestrian crossing actually as part of the construction project right now over that rail crossing to try and encourage and improve the pedestrian connectivity to the riverfront, especially with the development along Harbor Drive there. As we move a little bit further north, now we're looking at the intersection of Washington and Route 9. Again, this is the area to the left would be part of the current construction project, right? What we have today is we have obviously a traffic signal on Route 9, a traffic signal on DeKoven. We have access from Route 9 South to Route 9 South and from Route 9 North. There's currently no access from Washington to Route 9 North. We also have a very large rail crossing. There's not a whole lot of movements that cross this today. However, the railroad is always talking about increasing operations. And with that wide crossing, it's rather dangerous and it become a challenge for operations. So the proposed design here is rather simple, right? This would be removing that traffic signal at Washington Street. Previous iterations of this design had Route 9 southbound elevated in this region to get Route 9 north underneath. By adding that access further south at River Road, we no longer have to elevate Route 9 southbound. We're now sending vehicles further south to get off of Route 9 north. So today, cars would take Washington, maybe take a left to go 66. Now they're going to get off a little bit earlier and take River Road to Washington Street. So this is dramatically simplified. We've tremendously shortened the crossing distance for that rail crossing, and we've maintained that on-ramp from Washington Street to Route 9 southbound. You also see here the pedestrian bridge. It's an initiated project that has a lot of design work to go, but we've been talking to the city already about how this kind of fits into the downtown area. So more to come on this later. And here's that rendering, just showing how much, we've simplified the operations. Again, everything is going to be at grade. There's no grade separation for Route 9 south or north of this location here. Further north, looking at the intersection of Hartford Avenue and Route 9. So today, of course, we have the traffic signal. This is a full service intersection, so every movement is permitted. You see we have the closure of the Miller Street access to Route 9 project. So this will close off that direct access, that very dangerous access to Route 9 by opening up the at-grade rail crossing so they have access to downtown. A few constraints here that we obviously have the Aragoni Bridge, the Connecticut River, a rail bridge. There's a cemetery, a church, a partridge in a pear tree as well. So looking at the proposed design, the option here would be to take Route 9 southbound, elevate that up and over Hartford Avenue. So here's where we have that grade separation. This is the same design that you've seen if you've been to a few of these meetings. We've had this design for quite some time at this location. So it's taking Route 9 south up and over Hartford Avenue, and it's a tie back in before the rail bridge. What this also allows us to do is have a full length deceleration lane for Route 9 southbound that no longer has to stop at that signal and continue all the way up Hartford Avenue to St. John's Square. We are able to maintain that access from Hartford Avenue to 9 South, again, without that signal. Once a vehicle passes this signal at St. John's Square, that's a free flow movement to 9 South, or it's a free flow movement to 9 North. The movement we're getting rid of here is the left turning movement from Route 9 North. That is really the crux of this entire design, is the left turning vehicles heading on Route 9 North. How do they get to the Aragoni Bridge? Right now, the most common route will be to take a left at St. John's Square. In order to provide that left, we have to put a traffic signal in there. That signal is where these crashes are coming from. So by removing that left turn, we're removing a lot of those conflict points, making this a lot safer. The question is, can we still convey traffic efficiently by removing the access at Washington and the access at Hartford Avenue? Spoiler alert, we can. So here's a rendering image just to kind of give you some perspective. So right now we have Route 9 southbound that goes up and over. We have a three-sided structure to convey traffic on Hartford Avenue that goes underneath. You can't really see the deceleration lane. It's obscured by the retaining wall, but that deceleration lane off of Route 9 South will come up and go to St. John's Square. You've got 2 lanes of Route 9 northbound traffic that continue through. And we've designed this curve here so that cars are going about 30 miles per hour when they enter Route 9 traffic, and we expect them to be going about 50 miles per hour. So the speed differential of only 20 miles per hour is going to make it a lot safer than situations we have now where someone could blow a red light and T-bone someone coming down, right? So where's all this data coming from? How do we know this? So step one on really any project is traffic volumes. We need to go out there. We need to see how many cars are turning, where they're turning. We do this while school's in session. We do this over a course of a few days to try and get a good sample size. However, with a network as complicated as downtown Middletown, simple traffic volumes don't paint the whole story. So we can see how many cars are turning left at any of these locations, but we need to know where they're coming from and where they're going, because on any given day, as we know, you could take 3 or 4 different routes to get where you're going in Middletown, depending on the traffic and depending on what color the light is when you drive by. So in addition to traffic volumes, we do an origin and destination study. So what this is we use cell phone data, open source cell phone data that just takes pings off of drivers. And what it does is it shows us where they're coming from and where they're going to. So what we've done here is we set up various origins, various destinations to reflect the most common travel paths that we see, whether it be Route 9 to the Aragoni Bridge, Route 9 to 66, Main Street northbound. And then we also set up different neighborhoods, because obviously some of these trips terminate in these neighborhoods. They don't go through. And then the red dots you see are gates, to be a little technical. And that's to see exactly how these cars are getting from point A to point B, not just where they're turning, but they're coming from Route 9 South. They're going to get off and take a back road. And we actually see quite a bit of that. So here's some individual movements from our origin destination analysis. On the left side here, what you're looking at is the movement from Route 9 North at Saybrook Road to Route 66 West at Route 3, right? So this would be anyone coming from Route 9 North and terminating at Route 66 West, not necessarily traveling on Route 9 or on Washington Street. And what we see is in the AM peak hour, so AM rush hour, right? Of all the cars on Route 9 North that are headed for 66 West, 18% will get off at Bow Lane to avoid driving on Route 9, and they'll take the back roads through the local roadway network to get to where they're going. Conversely, on the right, we look at the Route 9 North at Saybrook Road movement to the Aragoni Bridge, the critical movement in this project, right? Today, of all the vehicles on Route 9 North destined for the Aragoni Bridge, 1 out of 5 in the morning will take Bow Lane to travel down the local roadway network to avoid Route 9, to avoid the signals, to avoid the congestion. So simply getting the turning movements at Hartford Avenue isn't enough, because 20% of those volumes were not captured. We've captured these by finding where they're coming from, where they're going to ensure that when we have this proposed design out there and the movements change, we've captured all of that demand. There's a few others as well, right? So on the left here, we see Route 66 at the Aragoni Bridge heading to Route 9 southbound. So what I found interesting about this is that 17% in the PM peak will avoid coming over the Aragoni Bridge and getting on Hartford Avenue and instead travel all the way down the local roadway network to Bow Lane to get on Route 9 South. We have a tremendous amount of cars that are avoiding the roads they should be taking because of the congestion and crashes. Additionally, we look at Aragoni westbound to Route 9 South. That's 62% of the PM peak vehicles that cut through Grand Street. Now, why are they cutting through Grand Street? They're cutting through Grand Street because of the congestion that's experienced over the Aragoni Bridge and on Main Street to try and avoid that. So the next step is we build the network, right? So this is what you're looking at here is the extents of our simulation model. Not much context, but you can see there's a lot of intersections. You see Route 9, 66 West, Aragoni over the bridge. This grew quite a bit. We started evaluating the network, and then we kind of realized as we peeled back the onion, there's more and more connections that are made further and further out from downtown that we had to capture all the way at Bow Lane. So we expanded that quite a bit to have what you have now. And this, we believe, captures all of the different movements that so many residents tell us about. I go this way and that way. We believe we've tried to capture all of that. So the fourth step is to calibrate the network. So not only do we take volumes and get origin destination data, but we put out drones. And the purpose of the drones are to ensure that the operations we see out there today are the operations in the model. We were out there for 2 hours, and this is what we saw. Luckily, it was in the middle of the day, but this person is confused. And perhaps they're inebriated, perhaps they're on their phone. Either way, you pull up to that intersection, that's confusing. That's not a normal intersection to see over a rail crossing. And they did figure it out eventually, thankfully. But how many times does this happen that we don't see the results of? How many near misses? How many wrong ways? We unfortunately know far too well about the wrong ways and the issues they can cause. So what is this? So this is the no build simulation. So now after we've calibrated, right? And what the calibration does is, you know, on Main Street, Middletown, you'll have people stopped in the right lane or they'll be backing out of parking stalls, right? So it doesn't operate as efficiently as on paper as it could. The calibration helps to make sure that before we extrapolate out this model, it actually matches what we observed in Middletown. So we modify it so that it's accurate before we extrapolate that out to account for as many of those environmental factors as we can. So what you're looking at now is the 2045 no build model. So we extrapolate out 20 years to include regional growth. You know, we have specific major traffic generators such as the Brainerd Road development that are in there, but also a 0.5% growth per year to account for unplanned development. And this is the traffic volumes, the origin destination data, the simulation output. This is not just a bunch of random, you know, colored cars. This is what the model puts out to really visualize how it operates. And it's not going to be, excuse me. We'll get there. All right. So it's going to be somewhat similar to what we see today, right? We see the congestion over the Aragoni Bridge, tremendous amount of congestion. If you're sitting in congestion over the Aragoni Bridge 2 cycles, and all of a sudden you come up to Grand Street and you see more congestion on Main, that's a really good reason to take Grand Street and cut through there. I know the city is taking steps to prevent that on Spring Street, but those drivers are still not going to deal with that frustration. They're going to go elsewhere. We see a lot of congestion on Main Street northbound, right? And what's really challenging to understand about this, and what took us a little bit of time as well, is the signal on Route 9 here is really what's causing this congestion here. This signal will fill up all of St. John Square, all of Hartford Avenue coming down. If that queue is all the way back to the intersection, these signals cannot operate and get rid of any more vehicles. So that's blocking the congestion that we see downtown. If we pull the drain plug on that and we allow that to flow, it allows the south to north movement to operate a lot more efficiently. Additionally, we have a big east to west conflict with Washington Street that we can address by reducing the access we have at Route 9 at that location. So now what we're looking at is the build condition. So this is our proposed alternative 11, the proposed design, the preferred alternative. This is the same model extrapolated out to 2045 PM peak period, which is 4 to 5 PM in this area. And this shows the proposed design with the roundabout off of the Route 9 ramp to River Road. Right here, you can see the cars traveling through past the intersection of Harbor Drive, right? We've gotten rid of that stop sign. And these vehicles are traveling all the way. They still haven't stopped. They may be yielded at the roundabout. They're coming up to the intersection of Union Street and DeKoven. From here, they can take that right, travel on DeKoven Drive, cross Washington. You notice, you go out there right now, you'll see a lot of cars on this section. Well, by getting rid of that Route 9 southbound access to Washington, that's operating a lot more efficiently. So now you can actually get into and out of Middletown Plaza as opposed to sitting through a bunch of signals, right? So now another way to visualize this, to quantify this, is travel times, right? So the model was great, but what's a better way to compare existing to propose aside from a bunch of red cars? So we take those origin destination routes, we take the common routes, and we can run them through the model and figure out how long it would take if we did nothing and how long it would take if we did this alternative. So up top, you're going to see no build, right? So what this red line here is the most important route at this meeting, right? The most important route for Middletown is Route 9 North over the Aragoni Bridge. What this is showing right now is exit 24, Hartford Avenue, St. John Square, up and over the bridge, the normal route where that signal is today. In 2045, between 4 and 5 PM, we anticipate that to take 7.2 minutes, right? So 7.2 minutes from this exact spot here, south of Saybrook Road, up and over the Aragoni Bridge. And that's kind of what that whole traffic model set up for us. On the bottom, you see proposed. Now this route, it's the same origin, same destination. We're coming up Route 9 North over the bridge. We're going through the roundabout, right? So this is Route 9 North off the new alignment off ramp, through the roundabout, up Union Street to Coven Drive, Apollo over the bridge. That's 7.5 minutes in 2045, right? So this is the critical movement, which is why it's actually the worst. So 0.3 minutes is what we've really got this down to for that critical movement. And the benefit is we remove the traffic signals. That's the thing to remember here, right? Is the crash every other day, the injury once per week for 0.3 minutes. And that's kind of what we spent a lot of time on, is this exact movement, meeting with the chamber, Portland, people, municipalities east of the river are very concerned about keeping their access to get over the river. Additionally, most people wouldn't think of exit 25 as a good route today because you have to travel through really 3 signals. But once we remove those 2 traffic signals, this operates significantly more efficiently. So the travel time from that same location south on Saybrook Road to go all the way up, to go to exit 25 in Cromwell and do a U-turn to come down, go over St. John Square over the bridge. That seems like a daunting task today because of the signals you sit through. But remember, you're not going to have a signal throughout this entire stretch. You're going to free flow. You're going to exit into a roundabout, come back onto Route 9 South, and free flow all the way up to St. John Square. So we believe that's actually a viable route, not only for truck traffic, commercial traffic, but for incident management. So if we have something that happens downtown on DeKoven or Apollo, a parade, a crash, what have you, we can use this as a great route to get vehicles up and over the bridge without going through any of downtown. Up top, we also have a Route 9 northbound to 66 West movement in light blue up there. So again, in 2045, we anticipate that taking 7 minutes to go from Saybrook Road up, you would take the left at Washington Street, the existing signalized intersection, to 66 West. That's 7 minutes. In the build condition, we're looking at Route 9 North, off the new alignment through the roundabout up to Union Street onto Coven Drive, a left onto Washington and crossing Main Street at 6.5 minutes. So we see a benefit of a 30-second saving. It's nominal, but we're looking at improving the safety without degrading the operations. We're not looking to squeeze every second out of this. We're looking to prevent a crash every other day and an injury once per week. We also have Main Street northbound. So there's a concern, I believe, that with these northbound movements off of Route 9 North, Main Street's going to get congested, right? So this is taking a look at Main Street, south of the city, straight through up and over the bridge, 20:45 p.m. peak hour, 4 to 5 p.m., 6.1 minutes. With our proposed design, we're at 4.3 minutes, right? So if you're looking at this short stretch of Main Street northbound, this is the same movement. It's just how the traffic operations improve based on the signalization, the retiming, things like that. So we're looking at shaving 2 minutes off a very short path. Now, we're not talking about getting cars to go faster. It's not about making them go faster, right? It's about a lot of time now. They're spent stopped, they're spent queued, they're at a signal, they're not moving. And that's what's taking up a lot of this time. And then when they do finally move, they're trying to make up for that lost time by quickly accelerating. So I mentioned the exit 25 as a preferred truck route and certainly a route for incident management. So this is the existing configuration. This is just north of the city, just over the line in Cromwell. We have a rather odd intersection that provides access to Route 9 South into Cromwell, of course, and then the plant. The proposed design here would be to add a roundabout very similar to the one that we have south of the project. And the main benefit of this was to make this a more efficient and a more safe movement, right? So now cars aren't coming to a stop or not blowing a stop sign. It does a good job of gradually slowing vehicles, some of the things I mentioned before. And really what this is doing is it's not sending any more traffic into Cromwell. It's just a route where vehicles can take a U-turn, hop right back on Route 9 South and get up and over the Arrigoni Bridge. Now further south as well, for a little context, we're looking at Connecticut River here. We've got our little properties. Proposed design here actually also includes another roundabout at Silver Street. So this is the River Road off-ramp, the new off-ramp to River Road that I've been mentioning quite a bit. But what we also learned from the traffic analysis, from the modeling, is that by opening up operations, by removing the signals on Route 9, we're getting more congestion on exit 22. A lot of times, if you remove some of those stops, you get a little more flow, right? So the roundabout will do, again, I'm a broken record here, a great job of gradually slowing traffic, changing the context of the environment from a freeway. Someone's coming off a freeway, right? And they make this turn. This is a raised center island, planted center island. So a person sees that visual break, not a sign or a flashing sign, but landscaping that says, wait a minute, I'm not on Route 9. And that's one of the big benefits of this, is to help gradually slow them down, change the context from a freeway to a local road. So I mentioned incident management as well. That's a big concern. Is certainly there's a thought that if we are sending vehicles into Coven or Apollo, what happens if there's an incident? Is Middletown going to get shut down, right? So on the left, you see we have these camera locations today. We have 8 cameras in Middletown, 24/7 live stream to the Newington Operations Center. It's beautiful. They'll show you whenever you go. They're keeping an eye on this 24/7, right? So we have cameras all over covering this. So if there is an incident, that we know about it and we can alert drivers by means of variable message signs. So you've seen these around the state. We have a good number of these already in place around Route 9 actually today. So what we can do with this is if we see a crash on the camera, which again is monitored 24/7, we can alert drivers south of the city to say, you're going to want to use exit 25 to Route 99 in Cromwell to get over the bridge. And before they even get off the exit to get into that congestion, they're avoiding that downtown. We can certainly do the same thing for 4th of July parades and things of that nature as well. So now that I've mentioned the travel paths, I've talked about all these things, I just wanted to pull up the build video again, right? So this is our proposed alternative. This is the traffic operations that we anticipate. So this is really the output of what we believe is going to happen. I showed you the traffic volumes, the origin distribution, origin destination data, and this is the output here. So I did mention, of course, the floodplain fill as well. So on the left side here, you're looking at a firm map. It's a flood insurance rate map. The light blue area is the floodplain. Not surprisingly, along the Connecticut River here, we're in a good portion of the floodplain. What we have to do, considering we're in a floodplain, is we need to balance that out. So it's kind of like a bathtub, where if you fill a bathtub up and you add anything else, it's going to overflow. So we have to find compensatory cut somewhere else. We have to basically remove that volume somewhere else so that if there's a flood, we can still have that same capacity. So all that to say, we are investigating a compensatory cut location owned by the city. We're doing an archaeological survey on it now. And all that would be is really removing some material. Probably most people wouldn't notice it, but that's kind of one of the steps we have to do to balance out that floodplain issue. Rights of way. So we do have rights of way involvement on this project. Two large acquisitions, and then we have a handful of slivers as well. I'll start with the left. So 40 Union Street, formerly Middletown Plate Glass, to add that right turn lane to kind of help facilitate that movement to DeKoven Drive from Union. It's a sliver acquisition. So that yellow space you see there would be acquired to push back the sidewalk. Lots of coordination has to happen with that, right? Additionally, for RLO properties in the bottom right, this is where that new alignment off ramp is going. You can see the thick black shape is the extension of that property. The red line represents the acquisition line, and that yellow property would be needed for the roundabout. Now, of course, there are relevant laws that we have to follow for this. So Connecticut General Statute, Section 13A-73 and 13A-93E, of course. And then the Federal Uniform Relocation Act, Relocation Assistance and Real Properties Acquisition Act of 1970 as amended. Right? So legal jargon, but also what's the process? What's the rights of way process here? The first step would be a letter of intent to acquire. So we'll reach out to the property owner, we'll coordinate with that property owner, and then there'll be a valuation of the property, what the department believes the property is worth. And then there'll be a letter of just compensation offered to that property owner. If they agree, it's over. If not, there's a negotiation process, which then can lead to agreements and certainly eminent domain if necessary. And there's a 6-month appeal period. We say this, it always scares people, but we talk to the property owners very early on if we're looking to acquire any properties and coordinate with them. So the next steps. So based on the support at this meeting, we could seek federal design approval as early as December. So there's federal oversight on this project. The feds want to make sure that we cross our T's, dot our I's. So if we get enough support from this meeting and move forward, we're looking at design approval in December. And what that does is that really allows us to gives us another pot of money to do environmental permitting, rights of way, and more detailed design work. Basically, it's a checks and balances to make sure we don't go too far with the design until we've really coordinated with the public and got some good feedback. So construction could begin as early as spring of 27, and it's about 4 years anticipated. 2027, there's certainly volatility there. That's if things go according to plan. And of course, the project out there right now, the Route 17 on-ramp to Route 9 North, we really wouldn't entertain incurring both those projects at once. So this would come on the coattails of that project. The construction phase is 80% federally funded and 20% state funded, and a current price tag of $143 million. That certainly has gone up. The addition of the 2 roundabouts and some of what we call mitigation has certainly added to that. And then, we have a comment period until May 16th. At this time, we're going to break back out into our open house sessions. I'm going to flip over to the people you can bother. Any of these people should be able to help you out. Not everyone here is on the project, but we can point you in the right direction. So the next step is to receive comments. We have plenty of people out there recording everything. The idea is there's plenty of us out there to answer your questions. If the project staff could just raise your hands, they're all in back. If you have any questions, please just go ask them. And there's certainly more information on the website as well. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to the open house. Please feel free to grab me and ask me any questions if you'd like. Thank you very much.